Today, I wanted to speak about routine. Routine is something that's been on my mind recently, and I, wrote a little tiny bit to put onto the Substack for routine. So obviously, go ahead and check that out if you like to read the written word. Um, but I was thinking about my relationship with routine. Routine gives a lot of advantage and it gives a lot of disadvantage, and it's been something that I've really struggled with, I would say, throughout life. Obviously, all of us are forced into routine in some form. Usually in school and getting up in the morning and having to do certain homework at a time, or if you were a child that decided not to do homework, you probably had some semblance of a routine to either avoid the consequence of that or to deal with that problem. Like you're on the school bus and you're copying off of someone you can copy off of because you've done it before, or you're paying someone to do homework. I feel like that's a very American thing, though, you know. But routine for me, it's given me a lot in my life. It's given like stability and peace. Me and my partner used to be on different like work schedules where she was just working, a lot of like evenings and weekends, and I was always working the weekdays and off the weekends, and trying to mesh your life together and trying to have like not a stable relationship, but trying to have a relationship where you're just consistently getting the value from each other, and that you're enjoying each other's presence and you're really feeling like positivity from it. And it's just so different. See, when you actually are able to be on the same routine with someone, there's such comfort that comes from knowing I'm gonna eat at this time. We're gonna watch, this entertainment. Like again, just like being a kid, having the schedule. Something I mentioned in the piece of like Simpsons at 6 o'clock. With dinner and like a curfew at like 11 o'clock or whatever.
Here is the Sandman for a visual aid. He has come to rob the bank today, but Spider-Man is nowhere to be found. Little does Sandman know that Spider-Man is preoccupied trying to help the Silver Surfer find his surfboard. But Marco doesn't know that, and Marco was expecting a good solid fight. Because this expectation hasn't been met, he wanders off, sadly, completely lost for the rest of his
And
day.
it's this structure of routine that really gives a lot of practicality in terms of getting stuff done. It gives me practicality because if I don't have a sense of routine, I so easily fall out of myself. If I don't have to work, my sleep routine will go out the window, and I'll start, preferring to be up late into the night or the early hours of the morning because it's so much more peaceful to exist at that time, and then sleep in during the day. And it is so difficult to pull yourself out of that and to keep flip flopping between something that resembles a healthy routine and then something that you more naturally lean towards. You know, really, like I was saying, with it becoming restrictive. For me, the routine, and it goes hand in hand with like the autism, I suppose, is the routine. It reassures me. Like if I'm planning to do a social thing, or if I'm planning to do an event with my partner or something, if that plan changes, it's it's really like disrupting as in terms of my like daily state, like my mindset and how my body feels. Like I feel physically more tension, and even if it's not a plan that was like 100% solid, like a birthday that was cancelled or something like that, even if it was just, I'm used to hanging out every Friday with people, and then Friday comes and that's not an option this week, and it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And although I hadn't confirmed it, it was like in the back of my head as like an agreement, like a little pre-contract or something, and we just had to kind of initial it and finish it, and then everyone else is like, nah, what are you talking about, man? There's no contract. And it just completely throws me off, like the whole day. Again, part of the ADHD and stuff like that is like waiting mode. If you have like an appointment coming, then you don't really feel you can do other stuff to a large degree. You're just kind of stuck in waiting mode for that appointment. Like you just kind of feel between two poles, And it's really similar to that, to be honest. It's like if the routine changes, I really have to put a lot of energy into like resetting my mind mentally. But in terms of wrapping this up though, and I appreciate you listening if you're still listening to this or watching this even, the contradiction of routine is that it gives peace and security, is that there is certainty that you're going to have time away from the rigorous brutality of life and the events that just keep coming around the corner and you don't know what they're going to be. And establishing some semblance of routine that I get to, watch a new episode of Severance every Friday, or I am able to cook, meals that will last a couple days instead of every single day. I'm like, what's for dinner? Routine gives so much peace in those factors, but at the same time, it is so controlling, it feels, around my mental state and how I physically feel is so wrapped up in having a consistent routine that I really struggle, with letting it have a big impact on me, So that's obviously something I'm going to have to work on, going to have to practice. I've dipped in and out of doing the whole Ali Abdal time blocking on Google Calendars. Every minute is like allocated to a task or something. And I feel like it helps in one respect and then it doesn't help in another respect. Like it's overwhelming, but it is nice to have a guarantee that you're going to do the tasks. But then the moment that you don't do the tasks, you just feel crap. You lose like trust in yourself. I'll wrap up with this, but I was watching, is it the Healthy Gamer guy? No, not the Healthy Gamer guy. Like the psychologist dude, like doctor, psychologist. He talks a lot around addiction and modern kind of contemporary problems and stuff like that for mental health. He was speaking about when your brain is giving you the urge to do something, then if you say no, and eventually a couple of minutes later, it kind of comes back to your head and you're like, yeah, all right, let's go do that thing, then all your brain is really learning. Oh, ignore that, this is my wee cat Milo. All your brain is learning, all you're reinforcing is what it needed to say, what volume it needed to tell you, essentially, to do that thing. So for next time, if that is still a behavior that you're not wanting to reinforce in yourself, it's just going to take more work to tell yourself no next time, because it's going to come at you with the same level of like urge and command to go and do whatever that behavior is, whether it's like drinking or smoking, or it's a different social behavior that you don't like. So yeah, all that just felt really related to me, in terms of the routine and your brain kind of expecting things. And it's really all about expectancy, isn't it? And having to like train your brain and stuff like that to kind of work easier with you. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. So again, thank you very much for listening and for watching. I hope you've enjoyed Britta joining us today. She's catching up on her Egyptology. And like I said, check out the Substack in the description and attempt to understand. There will be a short piece around routine that I wrote on there. So if you fancy reading more thoughts, and you can obviously start a discussion in the comments. You can message on Substack as well. And of course, if you feel like supporting, obviously hit subscribe and stuff. And there is a paid version on Substack where you can support the writing and get early access to content like this. So I think that about wraps us up today. Again, thank you very much for listening, watching. Hope you all have a terrific day. For me, it's the morning of Tuesday. So if it's morning out there, good morning to you. Best of luck for the rest of your day. If you're winding down with your day, then that's amazing. Well done. I'm sure you did a great job today. And even if you're not feeling the most positive about it, that's all right. You can do stuff tomorrow. That's all good. Don't worry. All right. I gotta go, but I'll see you later. Remember to do all that stuff I just said. All right. Bye-bye.